Hi, welcome to Time Tunnellers. I'm Robin Scott-Elliott and I have a question for you. I wonder if anyone can tell me who this guy is. So he is being called the man who invented Christmas. He is the most famous British novelist of all time. It's, of course, I'm sure you recognise him, it's Charles Dickens. So I have to confess, I have always had a bit of a problem with Dickens, and it's in part because of pictures like this, because he looks like a really stern old Victorian who'd probably tell you off even for smiling. Then you look at his books, big old thick books with lots of really long words and tricky words and sometimes words in really small print, and this has really put me off reading Dickens for a long time. And then I came across this picture of him. So this is Dickens as a young man. And I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover and you shouldn't judge a person by their picture, but this sparked a little interest in me. I wanted to know more about Charles Dickens, the man, the person. So I did some time tunneling and I looked into his stories. And this led me to start reading his stories like Oliver Twist and A Tale of Two Cities. And of course, they are brilliant. They've got amazing characters in them and lots of great twists. But I want to talk to you today about Christmas Carol, because I think this is a book that gives you a really good idea of the picture we should have in our heads of Charles Dickens. So Charles Dickens wrote Christmas Carol to try and make life better for poorer people in Britain, and in particular children, because Dickens himself had had a pretty awful childhood at times. So when he was 12, his father was sent to prison because he'd run out of money, he was in debt. And Dickens himself was then sent out to work. So he's age 12, he's sent to a factory, he's got rats running around his feet, and his job's to sit there for 12 hours a day putting labels onto tins. This is a miserable time, and he remembers his Christmases of that time being really miserable as well. He was cold, he was wet, and he was poor. So when he grows up as a social reformer, so he wants to try and make things better for the poorer people, because we're in Victorian London, we're in the middle of the 19th century, and life is pretty grim if you're poor, and especially if you're a poor child. So children as young as 6, 7, 8, 9 are being sent to work in mines and factories and mills. And in 1938, there's an accident in Barnsley in Yorkshire, and 26 children, so that's like your entire class, are killed. This causes an outrage, and in 1842 a royal commission that's been set up brings out a report into how people are treated as children in Britain, and they ban children under 9 from being employed in mines. So you can still be 10 and 11 and be employed in a mine. So Dickens reads this report and he's really shocked. So he decides that he needs to try and do something about it, because we've got children here working 10, 11, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. What can Dickens do? So he never liked politics and he never wanted to be a politician. So what is his superpower? His superpower is words. So he decides he's going to write a story. So in 1843, and Dickens is well known now, but he's short of money because his books aren't selling as well as he'd hoped, and also he likes spending money. He's a bit of a party animal. He likes going out with his friends, he likes having his friends back to his house, and above all, he loves having big parties at Christmas. Because his Christmases were so miserable when he was a child, he's determined that as an adult, they're all going to be brilliant, not just for him, but for his wife, his children, his friends, and their children as well. So Christmases at the Dickens are absolutely brilliant. Turkey, all the trimmings, anything you could think of, it's there on the table before you. Then on Boxing Day, he has a massive party for loads of children, at which he is the magician. So he dresses up as a magician. Dickens loves dressing up and does all these magic tricks because he's actually a really good magician. And he has parties all through Christmas until on the 5th of January, which is his son's birthday, and it's also the 12th day of Christmas, he has one last big party. So Christmas is a really special time for him. And this is the time in Britain when Christmas is starting to become what we'd recognise it today, the way that we celebrate it. Prince Albert, who is Queen Victoria's husband, has come from Germany, introduced all these German customs like the Christmas tree. The first Christmas card is sold in 1843, and then Dickens decides he'll write a special Christmas book to get his message across about why we need to help poor people all year round. So he's got this idea, and now he needs to make it into a story. And the way Dickens makes up his stories is by going for walks and thinking. And he walks in London. He calls it the black streets of London because they're quite dangerous as well. And this is where he sees all his characters. People like the Artful Dodger is based on someone that he meets on a walk around London. And he'll walk 15, 20 miles a night. And he's so into his story that he walks around talking out loud to himself. And at one point he writes that he even burst out laughing because he thinks he's got such a good bit in the story. So imagine passing him in the street, this man talking to himself. bursting out laughing. But he's determined this is going to be a really special book, because at this time of Christmas, it's going to be quite a short book, because it's meant to be read just over Christmas, because this is when people, instead of watching Christmas movies, they read Christmas books. And it's going to be a really expensive book to make. It's going to have gold lettering, and it's going to be nicely wrapped up. But it's only going to cost 5 shillings, because Dickens, although he wants to make money from the book, because remember, he needs money, he also wants as many people as possible to read it. So it goes on sale on the 19th of December, and by Christmas Day, it's sold out. All 6,000 copies sold. But remember, it's so expensive to make and so cheap to buy that Dickens only makes £137 from those first 6,000 copies sold. He thought he was going to make 10 times that, but it makes him famous. The story was reprinted again and again and again, and it's still read and still sells in the millions today. There have been, I think, something like 40 film adaptations. It's been an opera, a ballet. There have been hundreds of stage adaptations. So it's one of the most famous stories ever written. So I'm not going to tell you the story just in case you haven't read it. And if you haven't, and if you like listening to stories, there's a good version of this on BBC Sounds. But I will read you the first line because it's a great first line. Marley was dead to begin with. I think that gets you straight in the story. Who's Marley? Why is he dead? What do you mean to begin with? Does that mean he's not dead now? So that really drags you into the story. So it's a story with several messages in it, and the main one is about caring for people who are less fortunate than you, and not just caring for them about Christmas, caring all year round. This is Dickens's message. We need to look after people and help improve society all year round. But Christmas Carol is also about enjoying yourself. This is what Dickens is telling us, that it's good to be happy. If you can, eat, drink and be merry, because life is for living. This is what life should be about. So enjoy yourself as well as keeping an eye out for others. So I'm not going to set you a writing task this week. All I'm going to ask you to do is just do a little Dickens act of human kindness over your Christmas holidays. So from us all at Time Tunnellers, and as Tiny Tim would say, have a very Merry Christmas and a great holidays.